Captain Sarah Chen pressed her back against the cold concrete wall, listening to the static in her earpiece. 3 days ago, her team had been hunting drug dealers in the mountains of Colombia. Now they were in some underground facility that officially didn't exist, being briefed about creatures that supposedly came from another dimension. "This is insane," whispered Sergeant Mike Rodriguez, checking his rifle for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Demons? Really?" Chen understood his disbelief. Task Force Reaper had spent 8 years taking down the worst humanity had to offer. Terrorists, war criminals, human traffickers, all very real, very human monsters. But demons? That was a hard pill to swallow. The briefing officer, a thin man in a suit who never gave his name, had shown them video footage that made their stomachs turn. Creatures with claws like swords, moving faster than human eyes could track. Bodies twisted and burned in ways that conventional weapons couldn't explain. Military units from 6 different countries had tried to contain what they called incursions. All had failed. "The Korvaxi have been opening small portals to our dimension for the past month," the suit had explained. "They're testing our defenses. Each time they send stronger forces. Our conventional military isn't equipped for this threat." "And you think we are?" Chen had asked. The suit smiled coldly. "You're the best humanity has. If anyone can find a way, it's Task Force Reaper." Now, as Chen led her 6-person team through the underground corridors toward the latest breach point, she wondered if the suit was right or just desperate. Behind her walked Rodriguez with his heavy machine gun, followed by Corporal Lisa Park with her sniper rifle, Private James Wright carrying enough explosives to level a city block, Sergeant Tony Hassan with his medical gear and assault rifle, and Private Emma Stone with her communications equipment and a shotgun that could punch through tank armor. They were good, maybe the best special forces unit on Earth. But were they good enough to fight hell itself? The corridor ahead opened into a massive underground chamber. Chen raised her fist and her team froze. Through her night vision goggles, she could see the portal, a swirling mass of red and black energy crackling against the far wall. Around it lay the bodies of the previous military unit sent to investigate. "Movement," Park whispered through the comm. "Something's coming through." The portal flared brighter, and shapes began emerging. Chen's breath caught in her throat. The briefing videos hadn't captured how wrong these creatures looked. They moved like liquid shadow given form, with too many joints and limbs that bent in impossible directions. Their eyes glowed like molten gold, and when they opened their mouths, rows of needle teeth caught the portal's light. "Contact!" Chen breathed into her radio. "We have multiple hostiles emerging from the breach point." "Copy that, Reaper Lead," came the voice from command. "Rules of engagement are weapons free. Repeat, weapons free." The first creature to fully emerge from the portal stood nearly 8 feet tall. It surveyed the chamber with intelligence that made Chen's skin crawl. This wasn't some mindless beast. It was thinking, planning, evaluating. "Humans," it spoke, and somehow they all understood despite never hearing the language before. "More meat for the grinder." Rodriguez opened fire first. His machine gun thundered in the confined space, tracer rounds streaking toward the demon. Chen expected to see the creature torn apart. Instead, she watched in horror as the bullets passed harmlessly through its body, like it was made of smoke. "Physical attacks are ineffective," Park reported, her voice steady despite the impossible situation. "Target appears to be incorporeal." More creatures poured through the portal. Some looked like twisted versions of Earth animals, wolves with spider legs, birds with human arms instead of wings. Others defied any comparison to earthly life. They spread out across the chamber with tactical precision that spoke of military training. "Fall back to position 2, Chen ordered, but as her team began to retreat, the largest demon spoke again. "You run like prey, like all the others who came before." Chen stopped. In her earpiece, she could hear panicked chatter from the command center. The previous military units had all retreated when faced with creatures immune to conventional weapons. They'd fallen back, called for support, and been systematically hunted down in the corridors above. But Task Force Reaper hadn't survived 8 years by doing what everyone else did. "Right," she called softly. "Ma'am? That thermite charge you've been saving, how much heat does it generate?" "About 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, ma'am. Why?" Chen watched the demons spreading out, clearly preparing to chase them through the tunnels like the others. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. That confidence might be their weakness. "Hassan, what do you remember about exorcism procedures from that course in Romania?" The medic was quiet for a moment. "Fire, ma'am, and salt. The instructor said demons hate purification elements." "Stone, you still have those white phosphorus grenades from the Syria mission?" "2 of them, ma'am," Chen smiled grimly. "Rodriguez, switch to incendiary rounds. Park, see if you can find something that looks important to put a bullet through. Everyone else, remember what we learned fighting in those chemical plants. Sometimes the environment is more dangerous than the enemy." The lead demon was speaking again, probably trying to intimidate them. Chen stopped listening. She was studying the chamber, noting the fuel lines running along the walls, the electrical conduits, the ventilation system that would carry smoke and heat throughout the facility. "Ma'am," Rodriguez whispered, "conventional weapons don't work on these things." "You're right," Chen agreed. "Good thing we're not conventional." She keyed her radio. "Command, this is Reaper Lead. We're going to need emergency ventilation in Sector 7. Also, have the fire suppression system ready to activate on my signal." "Reaper Lead, recommend immediate withdrawal. The demons appear immune to physical damage." "Negative, Command. We're not withdrawing. We're adapting." Chen looked at her team. These were the people she'd fought beside in 12 different countries. They'd walked into impossible situations and walked out alive because they didn't think like other soldiers. When conventional tactics failed, they invented new ones. "Listen up," she said quietly. "The demons think they're untouchable because bullets don't work. They're fighting the last war, not this one. They expect us to run and get picked off in the corridors. Instead, we're going to show them why human special forces are special." Wright grinned, understanding immediately. "Environmental warfare?" "Environmental warfare," Chen confirmed. "These things might be immune to bullets, but I doubt they're immune to physics." "Park, what happens when you superheat air in a confined space?" "Explosive decompression, ma'am, and rapid combustion of anything flammable." "Hassan, thoughts on holy water?" "Well, ma'am, this facility is built over an aquifer. If we could introduce blessed water into the sprinkler system..." Chen's radio crackled. "Reaper Lead, the demons are advancing on your position. Recommend immediate extraction." She looked at her team one more time. They were scared. Only an idiot wouldn't be scared facing creatures from hell. But they were also calculating, planning, adapting. This was what made human special forces special, not superior firepower or advanced technology, the ability to look at an impossible situation and find a way to make it possible. "Command, patch me through to the facility chaplain. Emergency priority." "Ma'am, we're about to show these demons what human ingenuity looks like when it's properly motivated." The lead demon had finished its speech and was gesturing for the others to begin their hunt. Chen watched them move with predatory grace, absolutely confident in their superiority. In about 30 seconds, that confidence was going to become a serious liability. She pressed her radio button one more time. "All units, this is Reaper Lead. We're not retreating. We're not calling for backup. We're about to teach hell what happens when you underestimate human special forces. Right, light them up." The sound of Wright's thermite charge igniting echoed through the chamber like the roar of an angry god. The demons turned toward the sound, and for the first time since emerging from their portal, they looked uncertain. Chen smiled. Welcome to Earth, boys. Class is now in session. The war between dimensions was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their guns. It was their ability to turn any environment into a battlefield and any battlefield into their advantage. Behind her, she heard Rodriguez chamber an incendiary round. Park was calculating angles for a ricochet shot that would ignite the fuel line. Stone was already coordinating with the facility's emergency systems. Hassan had his blessed water ready. The demons had expected to fight soldiers. Instead, they were about to face human special forces, and there was a very big difference between the two. Chen checked her watch. 30 seconds until Wright's thermite reached full combustion. 20 seconds until the facility chaplain finished blessing the sprinkler system water. 10 seconds until Rodriguez's incendiary rounds turned the chamber into an oven. The lead demon took a step forward, still confident, still certain of its superiority. It was about to learn why that confidence was misplaced. "Execute," Chen whispered into her radio, and Hell learned what human creativity looked like when it was applied to warfare. The chamber erupted into light and heat and holy water, and for the first time in their invasion of Earth, the demons discovered that humanity's special forces were special for a very good reason. They didn't just fight wars, they reimagined them. The portal flickered as blessed water mixed with superheated air and thermite fire. The demons' confident roars turned into something that sounded suspiciously like screaming. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Round 1 to humanity, but this was just the beginning. Through the comm system, she could hear reports of portal activity increasing across the globe. The demons were sending reinforcements. Good. Task Force Reaper was just getting started. 6 hours after the first portal was destroyed, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center, watching satellite feeds from around the globe. Red dots marked active breaches in 12 different locations: Moscow, Tokyo, Berlin, Sydney. The demons weren't just invading, they were learning. "The creatures emerging from the new portals are different," reported Dr. Martinez, the facility's xenobiologist. "They appear to have adapted to our previous tactics. Thermal resistance has increased by 300%, and they're showing immunity to blessed water." Chen studied the tactical displays. The demons from the second wave moved differently too. Where the first group had been arrogant and predictable, these new creatures advanced with caution. They'd learned from their dead. "They're sharing information somehow," she realized. "Each portal breach is coordinated. They know what happened here." General Harrison, the facility commander, leaned over the tactical map. "Our conventional forces are reporting the same problem worldwide. Standard military tactics aren't working. The demons adapt too quickly." "What about the other special forces units?" Chen asked. "The British SAS tried to replicate your thermite strategy in London. The demons were ready for it, used some kind of energy shield. The French GIGN attempted a chemical approach in Paris. The creatures had already developed resistance." Chen watched the feeds from Tokyo, where the Japanese Special Forces group was engaged in running battles through city streets. The demons weren't just adapting to human tactics. They were learning to hunt more efficiently. These weren't the same confident predators from 6 hours ago. They'd become something more dangerous. "Ma'am," Rodriguez approached with a grim expression. "You need to see this." He handed her a tablet, showing intercepted communications from the Moscow incident. The Russian Spetsnaz had attempted a coordinated assault using blessed weapons and holy water, based on the data from Chen's successful engagement. The demons had been waiting for them. "It's like they knew exactly what we were going to try," Rodriguez said. Chen studied the footage. The demons moved with purpose now, herding the human forces into prepared kill zones. They'd gone from individual hunters to a coordinated military force in less than 6 hours. "They're not just learning our tactics," she said slowly. "They're learning how we think." General Harrison pulled up global communication logs. We've been sharing tactical data between all Special Forces units. Standard procedure for a coordinated response. Which means every time we develop a new strategy, they learn it too. Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underground facility's temperature. They're inside our communication networks. Dr. Martinez looked up from his computer. That's impossible. Our systems are completely isolated from... The lights flickered. Emergency klaxons began blaring throughout the facility. On every screen in the command center, the same image appeared. The lead demon from Chen's first engagement, very much alive, despite having been caught in thermite fire and blessed water. Humans, it spoke through every speaker in the facility. Your coordination is your weakness. Your predictability is your doom. The screens shifted to show live feeds from the other portal sites. Chen watched in horror as human Special Forces units around the world were systematically destroyed. The demons knew exactly where each team would position themselves, exactly which tactics they would try. How is this possible? General Harrison demanded. Dr. Martinez was frantically checking his systems. The quantum entanglement signatures, they're not just opening portals. They're connected to each other across dimensional space. Every demon shares the experiences of every other demon instantly. Chen understood immediately. They're not individuals, they're extensions of a single intelligence. Which means, Rodriguez said grimly, every time we kill one, the rest learn how we did it. On the main screen, the lead demon smiled with too many teeth. Your species fights as scattered tribes. You share information slowly, trust reluctantly, adapt gradually. We are one mind in many bodies. We learn instantly, adapt immediately, overcome inevitably. Chen watched the global tactical display as red dots spread across every continent. The demons weren't just winning. They were systematically dismantling Earth's best military units. Ma'am? Corporal Park spoke up from her monitoring station. I'm reading massive energy spikes at all portal sites. They're preparing for something big. The demon on the screen laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Phase 2 begins now. We have learned your capabilities. Now you face ours. The screens went dark for a moment, then showed new footage. Creatures were emerging from the portals that dwarfed the previous invaders. Some stood 20 feet tall with armor that looked organic. Others moved like living hurricanes, destroying everything in their path. A few appeared to be made of pure energy, passing through solid matter at will. Dear God, General Harrison whispered. Chen studied the new creatures with a professional eye. Each type seemed designed to counter specific human tactics. The armored giants were immune to explosives. The energy beings couldn't be touched by physical weapons. The hurricane creatures dispersed chemical attacks. They built these things specifically to counter our responses, she said. They've been testing us, learning our capabilities, then designing counters. So what do we do? Rodriguez asked. Chen looked at her team. They'd been through hell together, but this was different. They weren't just fighting an enemy. They were fighting an enemy that learned and adapted faster than any human force could respond to. We do what humans do best, she said finally. We change the rules of the game. Ma'am? Chen turned to Dr. Martinez. You said they're quantum entangled? All sharing one intelligence? That's correct. It's how they coordinate so perfectly. Then that's not just their strength, Chen realized. It's also their weakness. She pulled up the facility schematics on the main display. If they're all connected, then everything they learn goes both ways. They know what we're thinking, but we can feed them false information. General Harrison frowned. You want to deliberately mislead them? I want to overload them, Chen corrected. Rodriguez, remember the cognitive warfare course at Fort Bragg? Information pollution attacks? Rodriguez's eyes lit up. Flood the enemy with contradictory data until they can't process it effectively. Chen nodded. If they're sharing one intelligence, that intelligence has finite processing power. We can't outthink them in a straight fight, but we can give them too much to think about. She turned to her team. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to split up and implement 12 different tactical approaches simultaneously, not just here, but coordinated with every remaining Special Forces unit worldwide. That's suicide, General Harrison protested. Splitting up makes you easier targets. Not if they can't predict which tactic we're actually committed to, Chen replied. Stone, I need you to establish secure communications with every Special Forces unit still operational. Not through normal channels. They're compromised. Use the Emergency Archaeology Network. The what? Remember that joint training exercise with the university researchers? They have a completely separate communication system for coordinating dig sites, totally isolated from military networks. Dr. Martinez was studying Chen's plan on his tablet. This could work. If you can generate enough conflicting tactical data, their shared intelligence might experience something like a processing bottleneck. Right. How many different explosive compounds can you mix with the supplies we have? At least 15. Ma'am. Park? I can set up firing positions for 8 different engagement strategies. Chen felt the familiar excitement of a plan coming together. Hassan, you're going to coordinate with medical units to prepare treatment for 12 different types of supernatural injuries. Make it look like we're expecting 12 different types of demons. She turned to the main screen where the lead demons still watched them. You want to outthink us? Let's see how you handle human chaos theory. The next few hours were a masterpiece of coordinated confusion. Task Force Reaper split into pairs, each implementing a different tactical approach. Simultaneously, Special Forces units around the world began executing contradictory strategies based on Chen's plan. In Berlin, the GSG-9 set up for urban warfare using blessed ammunition while simultaneously preparing underwater insertion tactics. In Tokyo, the Special Forces group positioned for both aerial assault and underground tunnel fighting. Each unit made their preparations obvious, giving the demon intelligence plenty to observe. The effect was immediate. Chen watched through drone feeds as the demons at various portal sites began hesitating. Their perfect coordination wavered as they tried to prepare for multiple contradictory threats simultaneously. It's working, Dr. Martinez reported. Energy readings from the portals show fluctuations. Their quantum entanglement is becoming unstable. Chen positioned herself at what appeared to be a forward observation post, but was actually a dummy position. Through her earpiece, she could hear similar reports from her team members as they executed their diversionary tactics. Reaper Lead, this is command, came General Harrison's voice. The demons are showing signs of confusion. They're not coordinating as effectively. But Chen was watching something else. The lead demon on the screen was studying the tactical displays with increasing frustration. It was trying to process 12 different combat scenarios simultaneously, and for the first time since the invasion began, it looked uncertain. Your chaos is temporary, it finally spoke. We will adapt. Chen smiled. That's what I'm counting on. She pressed her radio button. All units, execute Protocol Omega. Around the world, every Special Forces unit simultaneously abandoned their prepared positions and implemented a completely different tactic, one that hadn't been discussed over any communication network. In Moscow, the surviving Spetsnaz members suddenly switched from blessed weapons to conventional explosives targeting the portal's power source. In London, the SAS abandoned their chemical approach and began using high-frequency sound to disrupt the demon's energy forms. In Tokyo, the Special Forces group ignored the creatures entirely and started attacking the mathematical equations that seemed to govern the portal's stability. The demon intelligence tried to process this new information, but it was already overloaded. The quantum entanglement network that had been their greatest strength became a liability as contradictory data flowed through it faster than it could be processed. Chen watched the global displays as portal energy readings spiked into the red zone. The demons' perfect coordination was breaking down as their shared intelligence experienced what Dr. Martinez would later describe as cognitive overflow cascade failure. Phase 3, Chen whispered into her radio. This was the real attack. While the demon intelligence was struggling to process the flood of false information, human special forces worldwide implemented the one tactic they'd never telegraphed: targeting the demon's own communication network. Wright's carefully placed charges weren't designed to kill demons directly. They were tuned to disrupt quantum entanglement fields. Park's shots weren't aimed at demon bodies, but at the dimensional mathematics holding the portals stable. Hassan's medical supplies weren't for treating human injuries. They contained quantum computing viruses designed to infect the demon's shared consciousness. The lead demon's expression changed from confidence to horror as it realized what was happening. Impossible. You cannot think faster than... The screen went dead as Task Force Reaper's virus reached the Central Intelligence Network. Around the world, portal energy readings flatlined as the quantum entanglement system collapsed. Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the global tactical display shift from red to green. "Never underestimate human special forces," she said to the dead screen. "We don't just fight the enemy. We fight the idea of the enemy." Rodriguez's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Ma'am, portal energy is destabilizing worldwide. We did it." But Chen was watching the energy readings more carefully. The portals weren't just closing. They were collapsing in a specific pattern. The demons hadn't been defeated. They'd been tricked into revealing something much more important. "All units, maintain positions," she ordered. "This isn't over. It's just beginning." On her tactical display, she could see the pattern emerging as each portal collapsed. The demons hadn't been randomly invading Earth. They'd been positioning themselves according to a specific geometric arrangement that was only now becoming clear. They hadn't been trying to conquer Earth. They'd been preparing it for something much worse. "Command, this is Reaper Lead. We have a bigger problem." Captain Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above the command center table. The pattern was undeniable. 12 portal sites positioned around Earth in a perfect geometric configuration that would make any mathematician weep with terror. "It's a summoning circle," Dr. Martinez said, his voice hollow. "The entire planet. They weren't invading Earth. They were turning it into a gateway." General Harrison studied the display with the expression of a man watching his worst nightmare come true. "Gateway to what?" "Something that requires a planet-sized portal to manifest," Chen replied grimly. "Something too big for their dimensional rifts." The screens around the command center flickered back to life, but instead of the familiar lead demon, they showed something else entirely. Ancient symbols scrolled across every display, written in mathematics that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Martinez translated as fast as he could. "It's a countdown," he said. "The portal collapses we caused weren't failures. They were triggers. Each collapse released energy into a planetary ley line network. The energy is building toward a single massive manifestation." "How long do we have?" Chen asked. 18 hours. Chen felt her team gathering behind her, their presence a comfort even in the face of cosmic horror. They'd fought impossible odds before, but this was different. This wasn't about tactics or strategy. This was about preventing something that would make the demon invasion look like a minor border skirmish. "Ma'am," Rodriguez spoke up, "what exactly are we looking at here?" Dr. Martinez pulled up additional data. Based on the energy requirements and summoning circle configuration, they're calling something the ancient texts refer to as a void lord, a creature of pure entropy that exists to unmake reality itself. "Unmake reality?" Corporal Park asked. "Think of reality as a complex mathematical equation," Dr. Martinez explained. A Void Lord is a living contradiction that simply cancels out everything around it. Matter, energy, space, time, all reduced to nothing. Stone was monitoring global communications. Ma'am, we're getting reports from astronomical observatories worldwide. They're detecting gravitational anomalies in space directly above Earth. Something massive is trying to push through from another dimension. Chen studied the energy readings. Whatever was coming wouldn't fit through normal portal technology. It needed the entire planet transformed into a gateway, which explained why the demons had positioned their portals so precisely. So how do we stop it? Hassan asked. We can't, Dr. Martinez said bluntly. The energy has already been released into the planetary grid. The summoning is beyond reversal. Chen looked at her team. They'd faced impossible situations before by changing the rules of engagement. But this time, the rules were written in cosmic forces beyond human understanding. What if we don't try to stop it? She said slowly. Ma'am? Chen was thinking fast, putting together pieces of a plan that violated every conventional wisdom about military strategy. Dr. Martinez, what happens if a Void Lord manifests without a proper anchor point? Well, without dimensional stability, it would theoretically collapse back into its origin dimension. But creating that kind of instability would require human special forces to do what we do best, Chen finished. Turn the enemy's strength into their weakness. She turned to General Harrison. I need authorization to implement the most dangerous plan in human history. What are you thinking? The demons spent months learning our tactics, adapting to our strategies, countering our weapons. They know everything about how human military forces fight. That's the problem, Harrison pointed out. No, Chen smiled grimly. That's the solution. They know how we fight, but they don't know how we think. Chen pulled up a global map and began marking locations. Right, remember that course on demolitions engineering? The one about controlled collapse of large structures? You want to collapse the planet? Wright asked incredulously. I want to collapse the dimensional matrix they're using the planet as anchor for, Chen corrected. They've spent so much time studying human military tactics that they've forgotten humans are more than just soldiers. She turned to the global communication system. Stone, I need you to patch me through to every engineering university, geological survey team, and mining operation on Earth. Emergency priority. Ma'am, what are you planning? The demons learned to counter human military strategy, but they never studied human engineering. The next 6 hours were a masterpiece of coordinated civilian-military cooperation that would have been impossible for any species except humanity. While the demons' attention remained focused on military installations, expecting conventional resistance to their summoning ritual, humans began implementing something entirely different. Engineering students in Seoul started calculating load-bearing stress points for planetary crust. Geologists in Canada mapped subsurface pressure points that could be exploited. Mining companies in Australia began strategic excavation of key geological stress points. It's working, Dr. Martinez reported. The planetary ley line network is showing instability. But you're essentially trying to give Earth a controlled earthquake. If you miscalculate, we'll destroy the planet ourselves, Chen agreed, which is still better than letting a Void Lord turn it into nothing. Through the global coordination network, humanity began working together in ways that transcended military command structures. A grandmother in rural Japan, who happened to be a retired seismologist, provided crucial calculations for undermining the demon energy grid. A teenage engineering prodigy in Nigeria designed a resonance frequency system using mining equipment. Indigenous geological knowledge from 6 different continents provided insights that no single military force could have developed. Ma'am, Rodriguez reported, the demons are finally noticing what we're doing. They're sending forces to interfere with the engineering teams. Chen checked the global displays. Demon forces were indeed moving to protect their summoning circle. but they were using military tactics to counter what they perceived as a military threat. "Perfect," she said. "All military units engage demon forces according to standard combat doctrine. Ma'am, give them what they expect. Make them think we're just trying to disrupt their ritual through conventional assault. Keep their attention on the obvious threat while the real work continues." Around the world, Special Forces units engaged demon forces in exactly the kind of tactical combat the demons had learned to counter. It was brutal, costly fighting that achieved nothing except maintaining the demons' attention, while civilian engineers worked to undermine the very foundation of reality. Chen watched her global display as the energy readings fluctuated. 12 hours until the Void Lord's manifestation, and the planetary engineering project was barely 50% complete. "We need more time," Dr. Martinez said. "Then we'll make time." Chen turned to her team. "Remember the siege of Kandahar, when we held a position for 18 hours against impossible odds?" "That was different," Hassan pointed out. "We had fortifications, supply lines, air support." "We had each other," Chen corrected. "That's all we need now." She opened a global communication channel. "All units, this is Reaper Lead. We're implementing Protocol Lazarus." The channel was silent for a moment. Protocol Lazarus was a theoretical last resort strategy that had never been tested in the field. It required every human military unit to sacrifice their defensive positions and commit to pure offensive operations, buying time through aggression rather than survival. "Copy that, Reaper Lead," came voices from around the world. British SAS from London, German GSG-9 from Berlin, Japanese Special Forces from Tokyo, Russian Spetsnaz from Moscow. Every surviving Special Forces unit on Earth. They all understood what Protocol Lazarus meant. They would advance on every demon position simultaneously, forcing the enemy to respond defensively instead of protecting their summoning ritual. They wouldn't survive, but they might buy enough time for the engineering teams to complete their work. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said quietly, "it's been an honor." Chen looked at her team one last time. They'd served together for 8 years, faced impossible odds dozens of times, always found a way to survive and complete the mission. This time was different. This time, completing the mission meant ensuring they wouldn't be around to celebrate afterward. "The honor was mine," she replied. Task Force Reaper advanced into the main portal chamber where reality was already beginning to warp. The air itself seemed wrong, folded in dimensions that human eyes couldn't properly process. Above them, something vast and terrible was pressing against the dimensional barrier, trying to force its way into existence. The battle that followed would be remembered in the history books as the moment humanity proved that their special forces were special not because of their equipment or their training, but because of their willingness to sacrifice everything for people they would never meet. Chen's team fought demons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, using weapons that barely functioned in the twisted space around the portal. They held their position for 7 hours and 33 minutes, long enough for the global engineering project to reach critical mass. When the planetary ley line network finally collapsed, it did so in a cascade of seismic events that would reshape geology textbooks for generations. The demon's carefully constructed summoning circle shattered like glass, and the Void Lord that was halfway through manifesting found itself without dimensional anchor points. The creature's scream of rage and frustration echoed across multiple realities as it was pulled back into its origin dimension, taking every demon on Earth with it. The portals didn't just close. They collapsed so thoroughly that dimensional travel to Earth became impossible for centuries. Chen regained consciousness 6 hours later in a field hospital, surrounded by her team. Somehow, they'd all survived the dimensional collapse. Though Wright insisted he'd been temporarily turned inside out, and Hassan claimed to have experienced existing in 4 dimensions at once. "Mission status?" she asked weakly. Hostile forces eliminated, Rodriguez reported with a grin. Earth remains intact. Civilian casualties minimized, and every engineering team involved is being recruited by NASA. Dr. Martinez appeared with a tablet full of readings. The dimensional barriers around Earth are stronger now than they were before the invasion. It's as if reality itself learned to resist intrusion. Chen smiled. Sounds like Earth learned the same lesson as the demons. Never underestimate human special forces. General Harrison arrived with news from around the world. Every portal site had been secured. The dimensional mathematics governing the summoning ritual had been permanently disrupted. Most importantly, the global cooperation required for the engineering project had led to unprecedented international collaboration. The politicians are calling it a new era of human unity, Harrison reported. Apparently working together to prevent reality from being destroyed has that effect on people. Chen sat up carefully, looking out the hospital window at a world that had almost ceased to exist. In the distance, she could see engineering teams working to repair the controlled geological damage from their planet-wide construction project. Humans rebuilding what humans had strategically destroyed to save everything humans cared about. "Ma'am," Stone asked, "what do you think the demons learned about humanity?" Chen considered the question. The invasion had started with creatures who thought humans were primitive prey. It had ended with those same creatures being outthought, outmaneuvered, and ultimately defeated by a species that refused to accept the limitations of conventional warfare. "They learned that human special forces aren't special because we're better soldiers," she said finally. "We're special because we're human. We adapt, we cooperate, we find solutions that shouldn't exist. When the universe presents us with an impossible problem, we change what possible means." She looked at her team, battered but alive, still ready for whatever came next. They also learned that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our refusal to give up, even when giving up is the logical choice. Through the hospital window, she could see construction crews working alongside international engineering teams to repair the infrastructure damaged during the dimensional collapse. Humans helping humans fix problems caused by humans saving humans. "The demons called us primitive," Rodriguez observed. Chen smiled. "I guess they discovered that primitive species can do very sophisticated things when properly motivated." As the sun set over a world that still existed because a scattered collection of special forces units had refused to accept the impossible, Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The demons had invaded expecting to face Earth's military forces. Instead, they'd encountered something far more dangerous, human beings who specialized in making the impossible possible. Backed by an entire civilization willing to work together when existence itself was at stake. The universe was a big, dangerous place full of cosmic horrors beyond human imagination. But it had just learned something important about the small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Earth's special forces were called special for a reason, and that reason had nothing to do with their weapons and everything to do with their humanity. The invasion was over. Humanity had won. And somewhere in the depths of space, other cosmic entities made careful note to avoid the species that had turned their own planet into a weapon to defend themselves. After all, any civilization willing to risk destroying themselves to prevent conquest was clearly not one to be underestimated. Chen closed her eyes and smiled. The demons had learned their lesson. Now the rest of the universe could learn from the demons' mistake. Human special forces weren't just warriors. They were problem solvers with weapons, and given enough time and motivation, they could solve any problem the universe presented, even if that problem was the universe itself.